Hi guys, it's Kelly, and today I'm doing a tag. I'm doing the Reader Problems tag, and the creator was About to Read, and I was tagged by Jennifer from Novel Crawler. And this one has some pretty long questions as the prompts, so I wrote them all down so that I could actually know what I'm saying. And so sorry if I'm looking down at my paper to read these longer questions. And this is all about, like, the problems we have as readers, the struggles we go through, And I did not prepare at all for this, so this is just off the top of my head. Number one, you have 20,000 books on your TBR. How in the world do you decide what to read next? And I am a big mood reader, which I've said before, and so if I'm looking for a new book, I usually just stand in front of my shelf and see what catches my eye, and I might just be like, oh, I'm in the mood for something more mysterious and thrilling, or I'm in the mood for a cheesy romance, kind of like contemporary romance thing, or whatever. So, or maybe I'm looking for something a little more deep and meaningful. So I just kind of see what I feel like I'm in the mood for and just pick up the first book that kind of like speaks to me in that moment. Like, there's not any kind of plan or anything on that. Number two, you're halfway through a book and you're just not loving it. Do you quit or are you committed? And I have no problem DNFing a book, putting it aside and not reading it. But sometimes if I'm just not loving it, like, there's a difference between not loving it and not enjoying it at all. So maybe I'm not like super loving it, but I'm getting something from the book. Like, maybe, like, a lot of times there's not like nonfiction that might have something valuable in it, and I might not be loving every moment of reading it, but I'm getting something from it. I would just set it down for the moment and come back to it. Or that could happen in a novel too, that maybe it has like value in reading it, and so I might come back to it. But if it's something like that's supposed to be for pure entertainment and I am just not getting that entertainment, then I will have no problem putting it down and not reading it. Number three, the end of the year is coming and you're so close, but so far away on your Goodreads reading challenge. Do you catch up, and how? Well, this is the first year I've ever done a Goodreads reading challenge, so I don't really know, because at this point I'm on course to get it. But like, I think that I just wouldn't really care because it is just a challenge for myself. It's not like I'm competing with anybody or like needing to accomplish it. It's just for reading is my hobby and for enjoyment, so I never want to like stress out about it. So I think I just wouldn't care if I wasn't reaching my goal, because I'm going to read what I want to read. I don't want to just go out and read all my short books just because I want to reach a challenge or anything like that. Like, it's not that big of a deal to me. Number four, the covers of your series you love do not match. How do you cope? Well, I'm a lot different than most people probably, that I don't really like care so much if my books match, because I buy a lot of books secondhand. Often my series don't match and it's not a problem for me. The only ones I really want to match are like my very favorite series, and those I take the time to actually buy a complete set that is matching. If I want, like my Harry Potter, I bought a whole set together, a box set, and for Hunger Games I bought the box set. But I have a lot of series that are just like ones I enjoyed but aren't my favorite, and they don't match, and I don't really care because I may or might not even keep them forever. Okay, where am I? Number five, everyone and their mother loves a book you really didn't like. Who do you bond with over shared feelings? And this actually happens to me, I feel like, quite often, because sometimes I don't enjoy the books that are like overhyped and like everybody enjoys. Like, I just read The Book Thief a few months ago and I didn't like it, and I know I'm like the 10% of people out there that don't like that book or don't like absolutely love it. And it is hard to find people who also don't like it. So I mean, I put it in the video, and if somebody says, oh, I also didn't like that book, I can feel camaraderie with them and talk about it in the comments. Or my main thing is I go and vent to my husband. Like, if there's no one else to talk to about the fact that I didn't love this well-beloved story, I talk to him about it, and he totally sides with me because obviously he hasn't read it and he doesn't care. Number six, you're reading a book and you are about to start crying in public. How do you deal? And I have had this happen before. Actually, I was at work one day and I was reading on my lunch break, and like open common area, and I was reading a book I did not expect to cry at. It had an unexpected 9/11 scene in this book that I did not know that it was going to be, and it was like heartbreaking, that chapter, and because it was a nonfiction memoir book, and I did not know that it would have that in there, and it was like so heartbreaking. I just started bawling in the middle of lunch, and you know, I just like rolled with it. I was really absorbed in that part of the story, so I just kept going, and I just like was wiping my eyes, and if somebody bothered to ask me, I would have told them, but I was just like in my zone. I mean, like maybe if I was like in a super crowded place like an airport or something, maybe I'd put the book down, but that time I was just like, I'm gonna keep going because I am absorbed in this story. Number 7, a sequel of a book you love just came out, but you've forgotten a lot from the prior novel. Will you reread the book, skip the sequel, try to find a synopsis on Goodreads, cry in frustration? So what would you do? Well, this happens to me a lot, and that's why generally I don't read a series unless all of the books are out. So like, I might really want to read Scythe, for instance, but I'm not going to yet. I'm going to wait until all of them are out. Or Strange the Dreamer is another one that everybody is like reading, and I'm like, no, I can't read this yet because I just cannot keep it in my head, and I don't want to keep rereading the first books over and over again because I would have to reread them. About the only series that I have done this with is that back when Harry Potter was coming out, I did read like some of them year by year, and I had to reread some. And I mean, since they were middle grade and went fast, that was fine, but I just can't like constantly be rereading books every year to catch up. So I usually just wait until everything's out. It just is better for me to binge read it because I can't even wait like 3 months. I would forget half of the stuff in a book. Number 8, you don't want anyone borrowing your books. How do you politely tell people no when they ask? Well, I don't really have a problem with people borrowing my books, but the only books I don't want people borrowing are like if I have a special set, like I said earlier, like my Harry Potter set, I'm not going to let people borrow them. But other than that, if it's just a general book, I'm just going to let my friend borrow it. I don't care. I mean, like, if they destroy it, I can always buy a new one. I mean, if it was, like, a special edition, I would probably just tell them that. Like, oh, you know, this is a special memento to me. I don't want to loan it out. But if it's just a general book, I don't care. Like, I want to give my books my friends my books so that they will read them and we can talk about them. Number 9, reading ADD. You've picked up and put down 5 books in the last month. How do you get over your reading slump? Well, actually, this is how I read generally, so I don't call that a slump. I do that all the time. I pick up a book, I get halfway through and decide, oh, I'm not in the mood for fantasy anymore. I want to read a contemporary. So then I start one of those, and then I'm like, oh no, now I want to read a sci-fi. And so I do that all the time where I'm halfway through like a ton of books. Like I think right now I'm actively like have read in the last week. I am reading 3 books right now. I'm reading like a thriller and a fantasy, and I forgot what the third. Oh, and the third one's like a comedy kind of book. So I actively am reading 3 books right now, and that's fine. I don't call that a slump. I just think that like I will go back to, I'll read one for a few days, and then I'll go back to the other one when I'm in the mood for that again, and I go back and forth. As long as I'm not putting it down for too long, I'm fine. If I'm just putting it down for a few days to read another one, I don't call that a slump. Number 10, there are so many new books coming out that you're dying to read. How many do you actually buy? Well, I don't really buy new books, and the reason is that I don't like hardback covers. I like paperback. In the United States, you know, we get our hardbacks first, and then like a year later we get paperback. So generally, I don't buy new books. So if I'm really dying to read a book that just came out, I'm going to get it from the library. So in terms of buying books, I always buy my books on discount. I have like a certain amount of money I can spend a month on books, and if I want to buy them, I'm going to buy them secondhand, meaning or on major discount. So I'm probably not going to go out and buy new books that are coming out that I'm dying to read. I can go to the library for the new books. Number 11, after you've bought your new books that you couldn't wait to get to, how long do they sit on your shelf before you get to them? And I am notorious for, this is another reason why I don't buy new books, is that I'm notorious for like saying I really have to read a book, buying it, and then it's sitting there. Like I did break my rule, and I bought a hardcover new version of Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng back in like May, because I really wanted to read that book because everybody was loving it and it seemed like something I would really enjoy. And it is still sitting on my shelf. And what is that, like 4 or 5 months later? So obviously I wasn't dying to read it but I went out and bought like the hardcover full price. I mean, it was a little discounted because it was Amazon, but I still like bought it for a lot more than I would when I should have just waited, and now I could probably get it for cheaper. But, you know, that doesn't happen very often. It was just that I happened to like buy the newer version. That's why I don't buy new expensive books, because if I buy them secondhand and they're cheaper, I don't care if they sit on my shelf for a while, and because it is going to be a while till I want, if I'm in the mood for something, I'll pick up that. I won't necessarily pick up the new books. So that was all of the questions, and this is an older tag, so I don't know who's done it, so I'm just gonna mention a couple people that are smaller booktubers that I want you to check out, and if they haven't done the tag, then go ahead and do it and be tagged, and if they have, then at least they're getting a shout out. So I'm going to tag Julie from Hungry Bookworm and Kieran from Kie Reads, and I will put their channels down below, and you should check them out to support other small booktubers. Alright, great. See you later.